So, I've become somewhat known for critiquing Minecraft's progression. There's no doubt that I've gotten tons of subs for my videos critiquing the game and trying to solve what I felt was wrong with Minecraft. Luckily, with 1.21, a fair amount of those problems have been solved or at least worked in that direction. However, there are still a couple of big issues that I have a problem with, and particularly around how I think the game is played. Specifically, part of the game's extrinsic progression that I don't think too many people touch on: the beginning. Those first few moments of exploring a new Minecraft world by yourself or with a group of friends are really important. I also feel that Minecraft has an issue with difficulty, and no, I'm not necessarily saying the game should just be harder, although some more difficulty options would be nice. No, what I'm talking about here is how the game scales in difficulty and pace. Most games have players starting at a low point and building themselves up to a high point. Metroidvania games, most shooters, almost every survival sandbox game has some sort of extrinsic progression that involves the player getting access to new tools or new things to progress their way through a world either guided by checkpoints or by the freedom to do whatever they desire. In some games, these opening moments can leave you feeling helpless or weak. You are facing enemies and exploring new areas that are entirely new to you. You have to slowly make your way up the progression ladder, collecting more and more knowledge as you go. In this respect, Minecraft is no different. You start off with nothing in the morning, you go collect some wood, get some basic tools, find a neat spot to settle down before nightfall, and maybe you make a bed. But there is a side to this progression that I feel gets sorely overlooked and rushed through. In any survival sandbox game, tools are arguably the most important thing a player has. Tools allow you to interact with the world in new ways or speed up previously tedious interactions. Minecraft has a mostly linear tool progression. You start off with wood, then go into stone, iron, diamond, and finally netherite. Pretty simple stuff. It's good, it makes sense, but there's also gold tools which are just kind of useless. But anyway, my issue here isn't really how short the progression is from wood to netherite. That's fine for me. It makes sense for Minecraft, but rather it's how short the progression is from wooden tools to iron tools. It's a little too short. I briefly touched on this issue in my original progression video back in December of last year. The ability to get the third best tools in the game within mere minutes of making a world is a cool idea at first, but I don't think it's executed that well. There's not a whole lot of depth to it. Before we really get into it, I want to preface this by saying that it is my opinion. If you don't think this is an issue at all, that's fine. I do. This is my video on my channel, but hey, maybe you hear me out. Maybe I'll convince you of something. And before I go on, I want to make note of my second channel, The Geek Factor Plays. This is where I upload gameplay videos, some other random kind of off-topic videos that wouldn't really fit in the main channel. I want to get this channel to 1,000 subs so that I can actually make me money in between the big video essays, and if you would want to subscribe to that, it's completely free, just a couple clicks away. It would mean a ton to me. Anyway, let's look at how the average Minecraft player progresses in a given world. It's hard to be specific here because of just how open-ended Minecraft is, but I'll try my best to make it work. When a player makes a new world, they usually find themselves punching a tree or two. As soon as this is done, they make a simple wooden pickaxe. From there, rather than making any other wooden tools like a wooden sword or a wooden axe, they simply go straight for the nearest stone and begin to mine that up to make all the stone tools that they need. After all, there's no reason to make all these wooden tools because of how readily available stone is. Players will likely find said stone in a cave, and once you're in a cave, it is inevitable that the player will find iron. Once they've got a decent chunk of iron, they can make all the iron tools they need, plus some armor, buckets, and generally anything that they really need to get truly settled in their world. Because of iron's faster mining speed, there is almost no reason to stick with stone tools for any longer than you need to. The only reason many players settle down once they've got iron or stone tools is because it takes a little bit more effort to find diamonds and then netherite, which I like that. That's fine. However, I do think it is a bit sad that we have jumped over so many early game features and gear just to go straight into iron. It's a little disappointing. That period of time in the game where you feel weak and helpless is extremely small, and it doesn't really work well as a survival game. There is no reason to ever make wooden tools outside of a pick, nor leather armor unless you're climbing a mountain and you need those boots. These things just don't offer anything meaningful to the player, so they're likely just to get skipped over. And that begs the question, if the tool in question is not useful to the player and isn't used by the players, why have it in the game at all? As a backup? I highly doubt that. Nobody is making leather armor and wooden tools as their backup set of gear. They'd likely just use iron tools and armor as a backup, or stone if they don't have that much iron around. If I were a dev, I'd be kind of hurt that some of the great ideas I've put into a game just get ignored by players in favor of rushing through to get the best gear. But that's the nature of Minecraft. You kind of need the better tools to build your projects faster. You need that diamond gear to really get going on that cool base, lest you get left behind and get frustrated how long it takes you to do anything. And let's be honest, we live in a culture where having more and having the best is just seen as better, so that only feeds into this problem. And yes, of course, it is on the people, us, ourselves, to be different from that culture and to take a step back. But I don't think Minecraft is doing much in the way of pushing people toward that. In fact, I think that it's pushing them to do the opposite. This is where I feel survival mode kind of fails at its namesake. You're not really surviving. You're more or less just optimizing, I guess. You're trying to get the best gear you can get your hands on so that your projects can move faster. In my experience, the beginning of the game is rushed through so insanely fast that the survival aspect of the game simply falls flat. I'm supposed to feel a little bit weak and maybe somewhat helpless at the start of a game. If I didn't want that, I'd play peaceful mode or creative. If I want a little danger while I play, but I still want to relax, I could put on easy mode. Even turning it to hard mode, I still feel like I end up rushing through to get iron tools as fast as possible. And I don't think I'm alone in that. Sure, some people, mostly kids, let's be honest, might take longer to do those things, but that's not because of anything in the game. That's because the game is new to them. Either that or people are intentionally choosing to take things slower. Essentially, the speed it takes a new player to get iron isn't caused organically by the game, but instead due to the player's naivete. Once the player has learned how to do these things, the game does nothing to actually compensate for that increase in knowledge. Repeat playthroughs may become difficult to enjoy if there isn't any extra challenge added to the game. So how can we force players to interact with early game mechanics and actually make survival mode feel like something a player has to survive in? Hardcore mode exists, sure, that's something where you actually have to focus on surviving because you won't respawn, but I think we could take things a couple steps further. There are tons of mods out there that expand or overhaul Minecraft's progression, but today I'd like to do it in mostly vanilla. I decided to make a Minecraft SMP where survival actually means something. This isn't a race to the top. It's a collaborative effort that encourages players to sit down and think about what they want to make rather than just rushing through the linear progression set out by Mojang. But in order to do that, I needed to change some major things about Minecraft and how players think about the world. Firstly, I want players to value their lives. No, not that in the live, laugh, love kind of way. I mean like in-game, the real kind of way. Death needs to come faster and hit harder. The biggest thing I can do here is turn off natural regeneration. That's kind of a staple in all of my servers, not gonna lie. You cannot heal simply by eating food. You'll need to make potions, and not in the vanilla way, don't worry, we'll have other ways to do it. Or you can eat golden apples to recover health. The second thing I can do is slash the player's health down to 3 hearts when they join the server. With the difficulty set to normal, this means that a zombie can 2-shot the player and death from a creeper is certain. Well, this change may seem cruel at first. Actually, no, that's it. It's just cruel. It's a pretty fair analysis, not gonna lie. Anyway, this limitation is done so that the players have to actually consider the benefit and risks of going caving or going outside past a certain hour. This limitation can set up a real level of fear within players and force them to think a little bit more carefully about where they go and what they do, or at least maybe work together in groups to survive big projects. Mining groups stay together, let people have different roles. One man gets the armor and shield to take down the mobs while the other one mines up the ores behind. Both are extremely valuable, both are different, fun ways of playing. One of the best parts of Minecraft is going through unexplored caves to find ores and treasure. I wanted to add some challenge to that. I also decided to make beds a little tougher to craft. The vanilla recipe feels a little too cheap and simple to me, like 3 wooden planks and some generic wool. I mean, like, it works, but I want to make it a little bit more complicated. Beds in Minecraft show pillows and sheets, so I created a pillow and a cloth item. Combining 6 cloth and 6 feathers gets you a pillow. You get cloth from wool into string. This forces players to herd animals in order to get some sleep and reset their spawn point. I've always felt that the ability to reset your spawn has a huge advantage and often killed some of the challenge of the game. You always make your bed before the first night, but with all these changes and some of the ones I'm going to discuss in a moment, making your first bed may take away from precious time you need to get other things. To heal, players can craft a basic healing potion in any crafting table using a wooden bowl, 3 dandelions, and 3 poppies. This should heal a couple of hearts and get them back on their feet. You're probably thinking, so if my health is low, and I really can't skip that first night, I guess I gotta craft some iron armor pretty quickly then, right? Well, let's hold our horses for just a moment. That's quite a few steps ahead in this progression. To get iron armor and iron gear, we first need to get stone. So, how do I solve the issue of players rushing from wooden tools straight to stone? Well, I did a couple of things. All stone tools require at least 1 piece of flint somewhere on the toolhead. Flint is a sharp rock, it makes sense to have it on the stone equipment. 2, I gave players a reason to use wooden tools before just rushing into stone. Specifically, players must now wait for wheat crops to grow. Why? Because by combining dirt blocks and wheat into a crafting grid, you can get 8 mud clumps. If you combine these clumps with 2 sticks, you get a thick stick, which is just 2 sticks held together by mud, which I thought was funny in my head, so that's what it is. With this thick stick, you can now make stone tools. Essentially, stone tools are a bit more hefty and require something stronger and more durable than a lame, weak stick that you've been using on your wooden tools. At a minimum, they will either have to get wheat off another player or find another way to get mud. Even then, they'll also need flint. Flint can be gathered one of 2 ways, by breaking gravel or by placing 2 gravel blocks on a grindstone and producing 1 flint. On the one hand, you're dealing with the RNG aspect of it, hoping that you get flint. On the other hand, you get instant results but lose out on 50% of the potential flint. On top of that, making a grindstone can be more tedious than just doing things the normal way, like smashing gravel. So once you've got your fancy stone tools, it's off to iron, right? You go down to a cave, you manage to outrun and outsmart some dangerous mobs, and you've mined your first piece of iron. Oh, what the fuck is this? These are iron bits, not raw iron. As of now, I'm having a little bit of an internal debate about how I want to handle iron bits. Currently, they're implemented in such a way that you need 9 of them to make 1 iron ingot, effectively making iron much more scarce. On top of that, I turned down the iron ore generation in this world by 50%, making iron the ultimate rare resource. By the way, there's no diamond ore either, and there's no nether, so I guess that kind of, adds to the challenge. As I stated earlier, the gap between wood and stone to iron is far too slim. Another thing I did to fix this gap between stone and iron was to offer copper tools as a much cheaper and more readily available toolset. With 1.20.5's new component system, I can change the durability of tools without enchantments, which is wonderful. Copper tools have a much higher durability than stone tools. In fact, I raised iron's durability as well. For those of you who don't know, the progression of tool durability in Minecraft is abrupt and sudden, and it feels deeply unnatural. For example, stone tools have a durability of 131. Okay, sure, makes sense. Iron tools have a durability of 250. Alright, makes sense as well, almost doubled it. But then diamond tools have a durability of 1561. That's a massive leap in durability, and it just feels incomplete. To fix this issue, I made all the iron tools have a durability of 1000, making them almost 2/3 of the durability of diamond tools, and my custom copper tools have a durability of 500. This means that all of your tools are just simply going to last longer. The gap from stone to copper is still rather large, but I think it makes sense considering that we're going from basic rocks to actual metal. Speaking of copper tools, how do we make them? Well, they're actually just stone tools with basic enchantments like Efficiency 1 and a raised durability. Through Datapacks, I can add custom textures and make them actually look different, but I haven't really gotten around to that just yet. This is a good start. However, I feel like it would still be far too easy for someone to go straight from stone tools to iron without a care in the world for copper. The only reason they may not is to try and savor the small amount of iron they have. I haven't really forced them to slow down, I've only made them consider slowing down. This is where our little friend, the cauldron, comes into play. This whole time, I've been using a plugin called Custom Crafting alongside my own Datapack to do all of this work. Custom Crafting allows me to not only make my own recipes, but also disable the vanilla ones. That's how I was able to change the bed recipe. My Datapack has allowed me to change the loot tables of mobs and iron ore and other blocks like that. Custom Crafting also has this feature that it greatly expands the cauldron. It goes from, well, pretty much useless to something very interesting. Right-clicking a cauldron brings up this GUI. And settle down, I know it looks like a lot, but it's not that scary. You have 6 slots that funnel down into 1 and 4 output slots on the right. In the Custom Crafting UI, you can make recipes, albeit with a little bit of jank sometimes. In this UI, we can change all sorts of things. How long it takes to cook something, if it requires a campfire or a soul campfire under a cauldron, whether or not it needs a hay bale, all kinds of stuff. But I can also put lava in the cauldron and make it require lava. I can make a forge! In turn, the forge can make tons of different alloys by combining metals. This is it. This is how I fill that gap between copper and iron. Alloys. But players can't craft a cauldron without iron, so they have to get iron and to make alloys, but that kind of destroys the gap, right? Well, we can make it so the cauldron doesn't require iron to be made. I opted instead to have the cauldron made from crude steel, which is just iron bits combined with carbon bits and a grindstone, which creates one raw crude steel. Heating this crude steel in a furnace gives you crude steel plates. We can use this for our new crafting recipe for the cauldron, but why not make the crude steel use as tools? Because fuck you, it's crude for a reason. It's too rough to make tools. We need to refine this process in a forge to make things better. Also, this is my project. I'm not going for like 100% realism here, okay? Just bear with me. It's Minecraft we're talking about. There's one problem though. You may have noticed that carbon doesn't really exist in Minecraft, nor do other metals needed to make alloys like tin or bronze. So I added them in. By breaking any of the 3 alternative stone types, granite, diorite, or andesite, there is a 10% chance the block will drop bits instead of the block itself. As usual, if RNG isn't your thing, you could later throw these rocks into a forge and get the raw materials needed instantly, perhaps at a slight cost. Or if you don't have access to a forge yet, you can take the stone to an NPC and buy the bits directly using the stone and maybe some money. By doing this, I have not only provided a way to get carbon bits, but also things like tin bits, bismuth bits, and other trace metals needed for alloys. The main component of our bronze alloy is copper. Most of them will require something like 80 to 90% copper, with only a few bits of the others. This means you shouldn't have to mine too much to get the amount you need for each trace metal. Oh, and I suppose it may be important to add that buckets can also be made from crude steel. That's how you get the lava in the cauldron. But anyway, with lava in a cauldron, we can now make multiple different metals. The first 2 ones I could think of were bismuth bronze and tin bronze. I decided on these 2 because I wanted players to have distinct reasons to make either set of tools. Each tool set has an explicit theme or goal. Tin bronze in this case is meant to mine as fast as possible at the cost of your reach and the ability to mine things like iron. That's why they're made from golden tools instead of stone. Unlike golden tools though, they have a durability of 650, so you'll be mining for quite some time. This is great for mining more bits and getting hands on lots of blocks really quickly. The same speed process and block range applies to the axe and the shovel as well. The sword and the axe, though, do have a plus 0.5 entity interaction range, which means you can hit mobs from further away than normal tools. To compensate for this, the tools are laughably weak. A tin bronze axe swings about as fast as the average axe, but deals the same damage as an iron sword, while the tin bronze sword swings like any other sword, but is only as strong as a wooden sword. Therefore, the trade-off here makes players consider which tools to take to do the most efficient work. Bismuth bronze is all about getting extra. They're essentially stone tools, just like the copper ones, without efficiency. However, they do come with Fortune 1. They're all about getting more done at the cost of your time. Just as a fun bonus, I made them fireproof. Don't know why, it doesn't make any sense, but I just thought it'd be fun. We have to have a little bit of fun here. The sword and the axe both have looting, keeping with the theme of getting more from whatever it is you're doing. Their individual damages more closely resemble that of normal stone tools. This deliberate decision to make 2 different tool sets with 2 very different functions is something that I think Minecraft severely lacks in the tool department. Choice. In the entire game, there are a total of 3 times where players must choose between sets of armor. 1 is wearing an elytra. You have to sacrifice your biggest piece of armor for flight. Sure. 2 is leather boots when climbing a mountain, and 3 is gold armor when entering the nether. Otherwise, you don't really need the turtle shell. You can just get a conduit or just, water breathing potions. These feel less like choices and more like little quirky changes to how the game would be played if you're in a particular issue. I want real choice, a real reason to choose something over the other, or a reason to make both. This is why also iron tools may not look as nice. While yes, iron can mine things like gold and redstone, the alloys offer strengths that iron cannot, and that is because there is no enchanting on the server. Without diamonds, you're not making a table, and you bet your ass I changed the overpowered fishing loot table and turn off villager spawns. Enchanting and fishing are extremely overpowered in Minecraft, so I just wanted to get rid of those right away. I plan on later adding a way to enchant things, but for now I've taken them out until I can think of a better way to do it. Anyway, once you've got a forge, you can finally take those iron bits and make iron ingots, and also make standard iron tools and armor. By this time though, you may have found that making iron tools and armor is expensive. Luckily, chainmail can be crafted from just iron nuggets and cloth, so you might do that. You also might have noticed that my health bar has been changing throughout this footage. This is because armor now increases your total health rather than giving you protection from damage. While wearing iron armor, the player has 8 hearts. While wearing chainmail, the player has 6.5 hearts. While wearing leather armor, which is also now harder to make because I've changed a bunch of loot tables, you have 5 hearts. This might be the 3rd biggest change to the server's overall progression, and I want to thank my 2 server helpers, Aman3737 and NT777, for coming up with this idea for armors and presenting it to me. You 2 have been a massive help in this project as of late, and I appreciate all of your hard work. Speaking of armor, not all alloys will have their own sets of armor or tools. tools. For example, there is no bronze armor, however there is a copper mail set which offers 7 hearts of health and +2 knockback resistance when you wear the full set. It also has some sweet armor trims that are designed by our old server artist, Casey. She goes by Logmaiden on Planet Minecraft. You should check out her skins, they're really, really cool, and we feature them in our server. Making a tool and armor set for every metal felt a little too redundant, and I worried it would take away from the speciality of each tool set if I added in too much at once. So, for the time being, all of the armor before iron goes as follows: leather armor, chainmail, copper mail, amethyst, and iron. Beyond iron, there are steel plates and titanium, which can be thought as alternatives to diamond. Steel plate offers knockback resistance and a full 10 hearts at the cost of your movement speed, where titanium offers a full 10 hearts but no knockback resistance. All of these special armors are crafted uniquely. I have plans for other armors in the future, but for now, just know that diamond armor and up will finally give players armor and not just more health. To give you a sense of scope, this means that wearing a full diamond armor set on my server would be the equivalent of wearing a set of leather armor on any other server. Okay, I feel a need to take a step back for a moment. That was an awful lot of information to take in, and it's important to note that all of the custom recipes are viewable in this custom crafting recipe book, which is easily crafted using a wooden sword and 4 wheat seeds. But regardless, I think this will take more than a recipe book just to guide players, which is why I think I might have to make a wiki. So now, I'd like to talk about some potential flaws in this whole experience, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on them. Firstly, I recognize that this experience is not for everyone. It will be brutal, to the point that I fully expect many people to quit. The server almost discourages players from exploring until they have a bed and some decent gear. If you're interested, you can join my Discord in the description below. You can find the channel that takes you to the Elysium Isles Discord and join that. As of now, though, you might miss out on our first closed beta. It's only going on for a week, and it ends on the 17th. So if you can't get there now, I'm sorry, but I will be doing more in the future to test things out like dungeons, test things like the economy, and other future features. Anyway, back to the flaws. While yes, this experience isn't for everyone, I do want it to be somewhat approachable for players who work together. However, I don't want players to work too much together, if that makes sense. My issue with this sense of too much community is that rich players may just feel like giving away all their cool tools to new players and kill their progression. This has been such a big problem for me that I've decided to make it against the rules to give away all of your cool stuff. Firstly, if you do join the server, please just don't do that. Secondly, I think a good way to combat this is to make the server somewhat competitive, but also cooperative. My current potential solution to this issue is making it so murder and theft are legal outside of claimed lands, grief prevention for the win, if you know what I'm talking about. This means that players will need to establish good relationships wherein they can trust one another and have each other's backs, and looking out for new players who are out to siphon off any good resources they may have. Of course, going into an area with a cave and claiming that land above the cave just so you and your pals can go mining in peace would be considered circumventing the rules and would likely get you kicked or temp banned for trying to evade the risk. You can't own a whole cave, it's not free real estate. I mean, if you want to do that, you can just own the land above it, and then maybe you'll be safe. The issue here is that the extremely difficult nature and threat of murder from another player to another may prevent people from setting up communities and overall kill the friendly vibe. I want to strike a balance between competition and community. Just enough community that people are friendly, but always sleeping with one eye open, if you catch my drift. I'd love to hear your feedback about this particular issue in the comments because I'm not entirely certain what to do about it. It is highly likely that this experience will change as time goes on. After I've had a couple of betas and a couple of good tests, I'm certain this experience will become more and more refined. Where I feel Elysium Isles failed to truly capture an experience that was different from Minecraft, I'm hoping this new experience can create something truly unique in the world of Minecraft and SMPs out there. Once 1.21 fully releases in a few days, I will work on adding dungeons, and hopefully their implementation will add even more depth to this already vastly different world. Anyway, I'll have more betas for this server in the future until I feel like I've really nailed down the mechanics and what I want to implement. If you're interested in joining those, like I said, join the Discord below. Finally, I want to end today's video with a fairly big announcement. I am working on a multi-hour Minecraft review covering every aspect of the game. It will likely take me months to get it done, but I want it to be the end-all, be-all of Minecraft essays. Lately, I've been inspired by Patrician TV's Bethesda game reviews. They're excellent videos, and I think you should watch them, but I think I could do something pretty similar with Minecraft. It's a big game, and there's a lot to cover, but I think I've focused on multiple aspects of the game, never really seeing the forest for the trees. I have all these disjointed essays on various pieces of Minecraft, but nothing on Minecraft as a whole. I think this would be a particularly hard essay to write, but that excites me. If you want to help me as I work on this, consider becoming a member. Again, sub to the second channel. Like I said earlier, I want to make it monetized so I can make a little bit of money on the side too. As always, I hope this video inspires you to create something of your own. And with that, I'll see you guys all in the next video. Bye bye!